Yes, Andrew, Gade, I'm here. Yeah, hopefully you guys are here as well too. Having a great day. Yeah, Saturday or whatever day it is. Oh man, I have to say, every once in a while, Mother Earth, the planet here, reminds us who's boss. And unfortunately, that doesn't always go well for humans. And I don't mean to sound sarcastic or put light to a situation where tens of thousands of people are dying. But this catastrophic earthquake that hit Turkey here and Syria just this last week. They're saying now, I mean, this is a few days ago, they're estimating 15,000 casualties, could potentially even reach up to 20,000 after the 7.8 magnitude earthquake, struck again earlier this week. I guess supposedly 3,000 buildings have collapsed, which it seems insane. And I mean, initially when I saw this, I said, wow, I was like, I mean, do they not have, are the building standards not up to par with, say, the United States standards? I mean, I didn't really know if earthquakes were common in Turkey or things like that. Well, supposedly they are. I guess back in 1999, 18,000 people were killed in a similarly powerful earthquake that hit northwest Turkey. And I guess the region sits on top of major fault lines and has, I guess, frequent earthquakes. So, of course, I'm learning through the process here. And after that earthquake in 1999, I guess they had, their standards had increased and for building codes and things like that. So I'm assuming that a lot of these buildings that collapsed had been around prior to those standards. So it's just really, really unfortunate. But again, it shows the reality that sometimes as much as we could try to protect ourselves and the Earth's going to come in with an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, tornado, tsunamis, hurricanes, and things like that too. So the Earth's doing a good job of trying to rid this planet of humans, which arguably are a pest. And a pet. Yeah, so I don't know, like they were probably not the best thing for the planet. We're destroying it, so maybe that's their way, Earth's way of getting back at us. So I don't know, but anyways, yeah. And what's the reason I bring this up too is not just because of the tragedy and talking about Earth, trying to rid itself of humans, but more importantly, also the fact that this is something that here in California, there's still this a good chance that we have a large earthquake coming around the corner here, and I really hope it doesn't happen soon. And if it does, I hope it's not to the magnitude that's going to cause much damage and or loss of life. And I mean, I guess even when I was after reading about this, I looked into building standards, and because I want to check to see about when building standards here in the United States in California, and I guess a lot of the current ones were implemented back in the 70s. There was also more implemented in the 80s after that 1985 earthquake in Mexico City that killed more than 10,000 people and destroyed hundreds of buildings. So, it seems here every decade or so, every decade or two, we're gonna have a catastrophic earthquake that's gonna be killing tens of thousands of people. So, hopefully we can, the Turkey can get through this. They can build new buildings to higher standards and hopefully minimize the loss of life in the future. But sticking to international fun stuff here, because remember we like to do a little weekly recap of all my favorite stories that I read throughout the week to see how much fun, exciting things are going on around there. We had that the spy balloon, right? That was like, I can't believe it got so much news coverage. First there was the balloon. I mentioned it last week, and then that last Saturday, right after I get out of recording the show, they shot down the balloon. So China's foreign ministry confirmed Monday that there was a balloon spotted over Latin America. And I guess China's foreign ministry confirmed that it was also Chinese owned. So they were also flying they had a few balloons flying around over here. Let's see, their foreign ministry spokesman said the unmanned balloon was Chinese, but said it was of civilian nature and used for a flight test. This was the one over the U.S. here. It said, affected by the weather and with limited self-steering capability, the airship deviated from its planned course and entered into airspace of Latin America and the Caribbean. So I guess they're using the same excuse for the balloon in the United States as the balloon in Latin America. U.S. Pentagon officials said the balloon spotted over Latin America is also a surveillance balloon. So obviously there are some discrepancies here between what China is saying and what the United States is saying. It's not nothing new there. But what China said is this. It says, quote unquote, China is a responsible country and always acts in strict accordance with international law. We have informed relevant sides. It is being properly handled and will not pose any threat to any country. Okay, interesting. So China always acts in a responsible manner in accordance with international law. See, the thing is, I guess we can disagree on the definition of international law. Because the United States and China disagree on that. Yeah, there's a little spat going on over there in Taiwan, right? Over that issue there in the South China Sea. So I guess that's just a disagreement there. So yeah, so China's version of not violating any international law is different than the United States. And again, you know what? If we see a couple balloons from China, just shoot them down. Maybe it gives us some target practice. To me, it's interesting to think that China will be, floating surveillance balloons. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've got some pretty sophisticated satellites that could hone in on whatever areas they want to look at. So I don't think a weather balloon or something like these things that was happening over Latin America and the United States are going to pose too much of a threat or a risk. But again, what do I know about international issues and military things, right? Very little, if anything. And then, this is yesterday, the Pentagon said it shot down an unidentified object over frozen waters in Alaska. U.S. officials said they could not immediately confirm whether the object was a balloon, but it was traveling at an altitude that made it a potential threat to civilian aircraft. Okay, so this is, I don't know, it seems like this is kind of a new thing now. I don't know, balloons have been around for a while. But maybe the surveillance balloon things, I don't know. That's we'll see what comes of that one in Alaska. Maybe that's another Chinese balloon, or maybe it was just some large happy birthday balloon that got mistaken for a Chinese weather balloon. Who knows? And of course, good old Russia, right? Because we have problems with China and problems with Russia, because that's who we like to pick on. We like to pick on the other major players here in the world. The Kremlin said on Thursday the world should know the truth about who sabotaged the Nord Stream gas pipelines, and that those responsible should be punished after investigative journalists said U.S. divers blew them up at the behest of the White House. So Speaker of the Russian Parliament has branded United States President Joe Biden a terrorist, quote unquote, after a report by iconic American investigative journalists blamed Washington for sabotaging the Nord Stream pipelines last year. See, now what's interesting is immediately after the Nord Stream issue, America kind of was quiet about it. Like, well, we're not too sure, but there was evidence pointing to the fact that it possibly was something the United States did. And I'm surprised that Europe was okay with that. Now, remember, it's in our best interest to, for the Nord Stream to shut down, because we don't want Europe getting gas, natural gas, or even oil from Russia, right? Because that was part of our whole plan, right? Is to cut Russia off financially, try to starve them, keep them from being able to sell their natural resources. It didn't obviously work, because we also wanted to make sure that we're going to sell our natural gas and our resources to Europe at an increased price. Also, that's what led to a lot of our natural gas shortages here, and it's going to lead to them, and increased prices, because again, remember, it's basic supply and demand. So if we're selling our natural gas to Europe, that means we have less natural gas to sell and use here in the United States. So there's less inventory, less supply, higher price with the same or higher demand. Of course, that's not been mentioned. We've been blaming it on all kinds of other things going on here. And then what was it here? Even the United Nations chief warned, I think this is early in the week, warned on Monday that the world is facing a convergence of challenges unlike any in our lifetimes, and expressed fear of a wider war as the first anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine approaches, which is here in mid-February. Secretary General, he said experts who surveyed the state of the world in 2023 set the doomsday clock at 90 seconds to midnight. I don't know what this doomsday clock is, but 90 seconds to midnight, the closest ever to total global catastrophe. He pointed to the war in Ukraine, runaway climate catastrophe, rising nuclear threats, widening wealth gap, and the epic geopolitical divisions, undermining global solidarity and trust. So, I'm kind of curious to check out this doomsday clock here, but so 90 seconds to midnight. I guess that means that it's getting closer. So if we're gonna take the warnings here, then that means that we should probably stop engaging with Russia and China. Just some advice there. No big deal, right? But United States government's not gonna do that, no, because we have to prove to them that that we're the ones that make the rules, because the United States is right and Russia and China are wrong. Yes, because they're bad and we're good. That's right. Yes, America's so good. I don't know. We're also a pretty corrupt country too, guys. Our government's just about as corrupt they get. So, and I think China owns a ton of our debt too. So we're kind of entwined with them, interlinked with them financially. So probably not a good idea to start a war with them. Let's see here. Oh yeah, speaking of government here, the U.S. government may have misspent 191 billion in pandemic unemployment benefits. A top federal watchdog told Congress on Wednesday. Well, okay, that's just pandemic unemployment benefits. Now, that's not talking about the trillions of dollars that we wasted because we never had to shut down the economy based on the pandemic. Yeah, that was something the government decided to do. We didn't have to do it. There was no historical reference for that. It was also unconstitutional. But again, we've mentioned this many times before. So this is $191 billion in just unemployment benefits on top of the trillions of dollars we wasted for the pandemic here. So of course there's fraud, abuse, targeting coronavirus aid. And of course all that money that got funneled over to all the local government jurisdictions to help, prop up their budgets there. And that was interesting as well too. And then speaking of natural gas, Gavin Newsom here, I guess he is going to be jumping into debate on natural gas prices affecting millions of California utility customers, calling on federal regulators to look at whether gouging or market manipulation is at work. Okay, so he's going to look into that. And I guess there was a pipeline that's a major supplier of natural gas to Southern California is about to come back online, a federal administrator told the utility energy officials. And it said that that's going to come back online and address an unprecedented spike in natural gas prices. So I guess now they're saying, after the fact here, because I didn't hear this before, that there was a natural gas pipeline that was shut down. So I guess that would kind of help explain why we had less natural gas. I don't think we need an investigation for that. Anyways, guys, we're going to take a short break here, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.
Stay tuned for more of Change the Conversation with Andrew Gabe when we continue next, right here on The Answer San Diego.
We should do it.
Change the Conversation on The Answer San Diego. Time now for more compelling content concerning the needs of San Diego. And here's your host, Andrew Gabe.
Compelling content. Very compelling, yes. It's getting back to that last point there with natural gas. So I love how everything always happens after the fact. Because remember, now natural gas prices have come down. So it seems like every time that the government talks about an investigation, all of a sudden the price comes down. It happened with gasoline. It's happening with natural gas. And of course, like, oh yeah, because of market conditions. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there was a pipeline that was shut off for a little while. And, now we got that all fixed up here for you guys. So everything's going to be good to go. And then I even heard there was another gas pipeline in Los Angeles, something like that was shut down. And that's going to lead, who knows? So that maybe now gas prices are going to go up again. It's just neither here nor there. So, I wish our government did a better job of maybe doing their job, which would be protecting, residents, American, consumers and things like that too. Because I thought that was kind of their job, but they're too busy running around arguing with each other, and also worrying about. I think what does government do? Also, they're always working on their next election, getting reelected, because that's the way they're able to keep a job. So they're more concerned about keeping their job in government than they are with doing their job as a government official and protecting constituents and taxpayers and all that fun stuff there too. And, protecting people, right? San Diego has a little bit of a homeless issue. We are lucky that we're not Los Angeles or San Francisco, but the homeless population just in downtown San Diego alone keeps going up. I guess it's at a record high for the 6th straight month. Now, I guess they just counted here about almost like 1,900 people were counted here at the end of January. And that's just in downtown San Diego, not including the county. I think the county, they're in like the 5,000 range. Again, much smaller than the homeless population in Los Angeles, but still a lot more people on the street than we feel comfortable with and want to deal with. And again, these are chronically homeless people. They're not just people you can put in a home and solve the problem. There are a lot of people that just don't want to accept the help. That's why they're still in the street. We have plenty of options and programs to get these people off the street if they're willing to. Also, another issue is mental illness as well as drug addiction. A lot of these programs won't take people off the street, won't take them in if they're on drugs or doing drugs. So that creates obviously issue when you think that we're trying to solve this problem with homelessness and you can't house them because they're on drugs and they don't want to be off drugs, they want to be on the street. So that's where they're going to stay. So then, of course, my plan and my idea is, well, then put them in a place to where they can do all their drugs and they can break all the laws they want. They're just going to be away from everyone else, not in the middle of the city, but it may be in the middle of the desert. Again, just throwing it out there. And I was reading this because remember, I was talking about the pandemic and how the federal government and all that pandemic aid that propped up a lot of cities' budgets and really helped out states and cities, including San Diego. San Diego got hundreds of millions of dollars from pandemic aid. I guess here, because of, I guess tax revenue in San Diego has fully recovered from its pandemic plunge, thanks to a surge in home prices boosting property tax, extraordinary inflation elevating sales tax, and the recovery of local tourism helping hotel taxes rise as well. So officials stress that inflation is skewing the numbers, particularly sales tax, because that revenue stream is a percentage of consumer prices that have been rising sharply. Inflation is also affecting hotel taxes by increasing room rates. So the city's making a killing here, the county obviously too, off this inflation and increasing prices. Which is interesting that the government is benefiting while consumers and residents are hurting. But even despite these surging overall revenues, San Diego is still projected to face deficits totaling more than $300 million over the next 5 fiscal years. So San Diego is still in a lot of trouble. This is on top of what the $5 billion in unfunded infrastructure issues that we have in San Diego that went up like 20+% in just the last year alone. So San Diego is not in a good position. We have more homeless people on the street. We're going to be facing $100 million budget deficits, billions of dollars in unfunded infrastructure. So San Diego's really got to get their act together. Again, one of the reasons why I just kind of had to leave the city of San Diego, because I just didn't want to sit there and continue witnessing the city falling apart. It's sad. It's a shame, and it boils down to mismanagement. It's a poorly run city. We've had horrible mayors who haven't done anything. City council brainless, and continually and pretty much just not even concerned with the long term of San Diego. And why would they be? Remember, because they have term limits. So they know eventually that they're going to be termed out. So why even care? Just take care of yourself. Make sure you got a job. You can move on your government career that you have, and keep going, and then just move on to a different city after that. So watch San Diego fall apart. But speaking about taxes, this is something that I've mentioned multiple times, and it's and I don't know why we're not talking about this, but property taxes. Property taxes, they specifically discriminate against younger and new buyers, while older homeowners pay significantly less in property taxes. We have laws that protect elderly people, allow older people in California to transfer their lower property tax rates to new properties, which does not exist for younger buyers and younger people out there, new home buyers. And this is not even to mention nonprofits, churches, and government entities that don't pay any property taxes at all. So the whole property tax structure is very discriminatory. It discriminates against young people. It discriminates against workers. If you're a nonprofit, if you're a church, you're a government entity, you don't pay property tax. But if you're not, so again, that's discrimination to me. And if we really want to start working on how we solve problems, we have to make sure it's fair across the board. So then everyone should be paying property taxes, and everyone should be paying the same rate. and we should be cutting the county off from stealing 87% of the property tax revenues from the cities. And if we gave that money back to the cities and cut the county off, we could actually reduce everyone's property tax, have everyone pay, and that way it would be it'd be fair, it'd be equitable, right? Everyone likes the word equitable, and it would make sense. And that way then it would be level playing ground. Because again, how are we going to be able to get young people to buy homes if they can't, if the property tax is unaffordable? And is it even fair that younger people are paying more in property taxes when we're working and paying Social Security, which we may not be able to collect when we're older? And older people right now are living off the hard work of younger people collecting Social Security and paying less taxes. That's not fair. They had a head start. They had an opportunity of building wealth, buying homes before we did. They also were sitting around while, remember, our government was becoming more corrupt, our national debt was increasing, our environment was being destroyed. Yeah, they were the ones there in charge. Yeah, not younger people. So again, it's something that's going to be coming up in the issue more and more. And just to let you know, you older generations should start working on trying to help younger generations, making it more fair. If not, there's going to be some upset people here in the near future. All right, a little warning, just throwing it out there, guys. But good old California talking about taxes and trying to make more money off of us. I guess there's a bill they're trying to pass here. California could start charging a weight-based registration fees for heavier passenger vehicles like trucks and SUVs. The fee would pay for street safety improvement projects because they say there's a relationship between vehicle weight and road user injuries and fatalities. And that's on top of them talking about this new mileage tax. They're talking about putting more tolls on our highways. So California is looking to try to grab as much money from us as possible here. And, it's, I was mentioning here, we were talking about the issue going on with Sandag, because Sandag's behind this mileage fee and all that. Lorena Gonzalez, who married Nathan Fletcher. So Lorena Gonzalez Fletcher, and then of course I call Nathan Fletcher, or I should call him Lorena Nathan Gonzalez Fletcher, yada yada. So anyways, so Nathan Fletcher decided here this last week that he's going to run for Senate District 39, making the first candidate to declare the open seat held by Senate President Pro Tem Tony Atkins, whose term's out of office in 2024. So he's moving right up that political ladder there with the good old Democratic Party there. So it's gonna be interesting to see where Nathan Fletcher ends up, because he took all that credit for the pandemic. He's like, well, I was the spokesman, I was there. He just loved being the head of the San Diego County government while through this whole pandemic thing. And now, of course, he stepped down as the chair so he could obviously spend his time and attention on running for Senate. So, yeah. And talking about mismanagement, talking about issues we have here with laws and rules and not enforcing our laws. But I guess here across the retail landscape, businesses have been putting items under lock and key as a quick way to stop thieves. So some are considering extreme measures, including Rite Aid, whose chief retail officer told analysts on the earnings call here last year that it's looking at literally putting everything behind showcases to ensure that products are not there for customers who want to buy it. It's also considering using off-duty police officers at some stores. So pretty much you're going to be able to walk into a store and not be able to buy it, like taking it off the shelf. You're going to have to ask an employer or someone else to get it. At that point then, you're really discouraging people from shopping in stores. So making it easier to shop online. And again, that one point, we're just going to stop having stores. Walmart's talked about closing down stores because of this theft issue. So, maybe we start enforcing the law and working on the problems that we have so that we still have the ability of going into a store and buying something that we need that same day. Remember, all the delivery things going on, remember, delivering items, has an environmental impact. Driving cars around, wasting gas, traffic issues, polluting. So it's sometimes better to not have things delivered to everyone all the time. And good old Elon Musk. I gotta thank this guy here. He found, I guess, he says the worst offender in government censorship and media manipulation is a little-known agency under the United States Department of State. Musk deems the agency Global Engagement Center. So it's under the U.S. State Department. And he deemed the Global Engagement Center a threat to our democracy. Never heard this Global Engagement Center, but supposedly they're actively censoring the media and manipulating news information. So maybe it's time that we stop allowing our government to be censoring our information. That's a good idea right there too, because I think that's not their job or duty. Yeah, something like that. But anyways, last here, before we run out of time here, AMC Movie Theaters, nation's largest movie theater chain, on Monday unveiled a new pricing scheme in which seat location determines how much your movie ticket costs. So seats in the middle and the auditorium will cost $1 or $2 more, while seats in the front row will be slightly cheaper. So yeah, so from now on, if you want to save money at the movies, you're gonna have to sit really close. But anyways, I'm not a big fan of this idea. I think the idea is you get there earlier and get a good seat. But anyways, guys, we're out of time as usual. Have yourself a great week. Love you guys out there. We'll catch you guys next.